If you listen to the show, you already know that we cannot exist without our sponsors. They are the ones who make things happen behind the scenes. So let's acknowledge Fuji Sports. We've been working with these guys for a while now, not only as far as this podcast is concerned, but also at the RŌL Academy. We've had their gear. I personally use their gis. What a phenomenal product.
Yeah, I mean, jiu-jitsu, judo, MMA, tape, bags, anything you need for your jiu-jitsu journey, you can find at fujisports.com.
Let's talk RŌL TV. There's so much content on there. It's ridiculous at this point. But I think what is even more intriguing, as time went on during the project, we've been recording most of the events that were taking place here at RŌL Academy. At this point, I mean, we have guys like Chris Howder, Armin Fati, Rafael Lovato Sr., and Pete the Greek. I mean, there are so many different events that we've kind of recorded it. Don't you think that's amazing? I mean, points of reflection and kind of going back for all the students to see what really happened and refresh their memory.
Yeah, I think it's great, you know, being able to go back and look at all these high-level practitioners, Octavio Cudo, like one of the names you didn't mention. And I mean, just these guys that have been doing this for so long come in, teach these amazing seminars and workshops, and it's all recorded and there for you to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you want to get additional savings on all this, type in code RŌL Radio at the coupon and get additional 30% off of your membership.
Nice. Go to rolacademy.tv. What's up, everyone, and welcome back. If you haven't already, please hit the like, share, subscribe, download, listen, and whatever other button there is, and leave us a review wherever you do listen. That ensures that we can continue bringing you the great guests and amazing content that you've come to expect. Today's guest joins us to discuss her life of service, dealing with major life changes, trauma survival, the women who made her career in MMA possible, and more. Here's the RŌL Radio with activist, farmer, former paramedic and wildland firefighter, BJJ instructor, MMA fighter, and black belt under Renato Magno and Richie Boogeyman Martinez, Bre Stikk.
Welcome to RŌL Radio.
And we are live.
Here we go.
Yeah. How was your knee?
How's my knee? I don't know. It's trashed. It's the same as it was the last time you asked me. But and I finally scheduled an MRI for next week.
That failed.
We'll see. I'll get some. Well, the first one failed. You know, they gave me. I had a list of places to call, and it was like out of network, and so you know the modern medical programs here in our area are kind of a pain in the ass. And then they don't send out cards anymore, which I forgot. So like our group number changed and my member number changed, and they told me I didn't have insurance and all of that. So I had to.
Sounds like you got a lot of personal problems.
I don't know. That's not personal. It's just what it is, you know. But I got it all straightened out, so I got an appointment for next week. They've got my updated insurance, and I'll finally get a look after a couple months of being in pain. I'll get a look at it and see what they recommend. And if they recommend surgery, well then I guess I'll do some rehab on my own because I'm not having it cut. It's not that bad.
Hey, Bre, welcome to the show. How you follow that? I mean,
welcome to jiu-jitsu. We're all
I know, right? That was like the whole session of complaining, but here it is. How is your insurance? I mean, let's talk about insurance. What else are we going to talk about?
That subject. I don't have insurance. You know? I had sick
I did
insurance.
I did that for a couple of years. I went without and got super lucky that nothing happened in that time. So I got lucky.
Bre, glad to have you here. We tried this once, didn't work. We're trying it again. I'm glad you made it. I'm glad we were able to sync this up. And from what I'm hearing from you, a busy day for you, huh? You teaching and doing stuff all over everywhere, huh?
Yeah, well, my day today, I have a 5-acre homestead. So kind of like mini farm. I have cows, ducks, chickens, turkeys, goats, garden. So that is a lot of work every day, morning and night. And then I teach every night. But today there was a last minute, they needed a cover and they didn't have anyone. So I flew out here. But this worked out because I have this podcast room. Uriah's podcast room. Probably better than my
Spin
kitchen.
the laptop. Let us see what the podcast will look like. Let's get the behind the scenes here. We got a poster. Look at that.
That's that.
Look at that.
Whatever you are, the host, the podcast host.
Look at that. Look at it. We got behind the scenes. We got behind the scenes.
MMA. I don't even know his podcast. Is it MMA?
I don't remember.
Now you're dropping the ball. That was like the opportunity to promote.
Well, I don't know. I really don't know. Oh, that's cool.
So you have a small farm that keeps you busy. You teach jiu-jitsu at night. Why are you so busy? Why life can't be just simpler?
Well, I'm in California and it's hecka expensive. And I got divorced about a year ago. I was a military spouse and I was living in San Diego. I had a sick home. And then we got divorced. So there goes my insurance, our house, the whole deal. So I ended up here because I didn't have anywhere to go. And my grandma passed and left a 5-acre property that her and my grandpa moved here after World War II from Holland and the UK, London. And then they bought 5 acres and built a house. And it's just been dilapidated, and the bank was trying to auction it for a year, and it was crazy. So I was the executor, and after I got divorced, I'm like, I've always wanted to like run cows and stuff, and I really appreciate the ways of old, and I think the food industry and all that, there's a lot of scamming bullshit, and they're poisoning the food, as in chemicals, hormones, vaccines, antibiotics. It's just, I don't think there's a need for it, and I think it's making us sick. So I'm doing it from scratch. I'm hatching chickens and raising them and slaughtering them, selling eggs, eating eggs. I'm doing a batch of turkeys here soon, and I have my first cows I'm going to finish. So I don't do anything in them. I don't shoot them with any vaccines or hormones or nothing, and everyone's healthy. So it's kind of an experiment, but I'm loving it. I'm loving the old lifestyle that everybody lived 100 years ago, right? And then I teach every night. I love teaching. It doesn't feel like work, but I have to carry a lot of jobs. I actually work on a ranch also. I teach every night, and then I train here at Alpha Male, and then I also hustle with eggs and privates, and I work for Rollbot. I don't know if you guys heard of Rollbot. It's like a dummy for jiu-jitsu, but all the joints actually pop, and it has electronics and a microchip, and certain pressure sensors go off and let you know like when your choke's going to finish and stuff. It's sick. So I work for them too.
I have Gary for the record. I have Gary for that.
Yeah,
I have Gary for that. Like his joints pop, and he tells me when he's about to pass out.
It's
well, listen, it sounds
because you don't really. How often you have the opportunity to choke someone as hard as you can and actually build those isometric muscles, So it's very rare. Additionally, you can armbar all the way until you get a pop. And all the bones and stuff are 3D printed to spec like a real person. It's insane. So anyways, I work for them too. And
do they come in different weights and sizes?
Right now it's a universal size. It's more for a man. He's a little big for me to, like, when I choke, I gotta go like, ooh, I really have to make sure everything's perfect, But it's in the beta phase, but we're going to do kids. We're going to do women's, different sizes. You can get them custom at some point. They're making a custom one for Gordon right now, like a bigger one.
That's awesome. Those are cool. Those are cool.
Things are changing in jiu-jitsu. Things are changing. Technology is arriving.
You guys are in LA, right?
No, we're in Chicago.
Chicago.
Oh.
We are Midwest.
Why did they think you were training at Legacy? teaching at Legacy? Is there one there?
Because we are very good friends with Alberto, and I visit there often.
Oh, okay. I'm from Ventura County. I used to work in LA on an ambulance, so I used to pop in Legacy here and there.
Yeah,
That's great people.
Great people, great spot. Sounds to me like your life has changed in the last couple of years, 180 degrees. It sounds to me what you're doing today, it's very different to what you've been doing up to this point. How does that feel, making through like a forklift life change?
It's bizarre because I feel like a completely different woman the last 2 years. It was very hard at first, like getting divorced. I was military, made my whole life decisions, location here or there. He was always deployed back. Our bills are all dependent whether the military is gonna like sign their fucking budget and we get our money and stuff for housing. And then COVID happened, right? And my husband was deployed and he got stuck in Japan for like 5 months longer because of the no travel restriction. And then then we ended up getting divorced. And then I came here, and I've always been very interested in grass-fed, organic, no chemical. I'm kind of like anti-medication type of person. I think you could find an herb for almost anything. But anyway, so it's passionate, but it's so hard. Like I bail fucking day.
Walk me through the decision process. Like, walk me through this whole. I mean, did you make this decision overnight? Did you just shoot it off the hip? Let's just go and do this. I have this house that was just passed on, and let's see where this goes. Or were you just dissecting this and trying to figure out what's the good choice?
Well, it's weird because it was like not something I was, I want to say excited to go do, but like I was saying, so my grandma had a reverse mortgage, and they, with that loan, as soon as they die, boom, they're trying to take the house and auction it. And I had I think it was 14 days before they had an auction date for the property. And it was my Nana's dying wish that I kept the property in our family and didn't sell. So I think it was like the only way to make it work was for somebody. And my family, I come from family. My mom has a lot of alcohol addiction stuff, and she's doesn't make the family very stable, right? So my dad's like a total go hard, blue collar construction, his construction business, and he does well, but he can never get time to go do anything. And so it was kind of the torch I felt like was passed to me. If I didn't do something with it, it was going to be given to the bank, or we would have to just like short sale it for barely what it was worth. And I saw, and I'm very spiritual. I believe in Jesus Christ, and I feel like he gave me like visions or dreams or whatever you want to call it, of making it a place that I could harbor women, as far as like retreats for jujitsu, using homesteading as healing, because I feel like it really helped me heal through trauma, doing all these type of skills and learning, and it's so peaceful and beautiful now, 2 years later. But at first, it was hecka hard, and I feel like it was a God thing. I feel like God was like, you need to go to NorCal. And it's 7 hours away from all my friends and family. I knew no one. And I just knew my one neighbor, and I'm not even close with her. And then I came to TAM, and I'm a nobody here. I'm not a UFC fighter, everyone's a UFC fighter here and famous. And I have pretty good accolades in jiu-jitsu, but our world is not near as big as MMA, right? Mm-hmm. So I've had to kind of prove my worth here, and I've built a women's program here at Uriah's. I've built multiple programs at other places for women, and I feel like I'm kind of finding my ground and figuring out I want to get into the sex trafficking space. I want to help girls get out of sex trafficking, and using jiu-jitsu as a way for healing, and to get them kind of open to a world in a fellowship of women that they don't need to be doing that life. You know what I mean? And that's another God thing. I don't have these thoughts just like come to my head. Like,
I gotta give it to you. I mean, that's a lot. I mean, that's like the responsibility, just running the farm. That's one, but then
Super,
teaching
yeah.
and building the programs, and now you're talking about sex trafficking. You're talking about helping other people. Like, I mean, that's a lot. That's a heavy weight on your back. How do you do this?
Barely. No, I'm just kidding. But I know what you mean. Everyone, that's been like my thing in my life is like when I was young too, I was very ambitious. I became an EMT. Like the day I signed up early, so when I'm 18, I could have my license as an EMT, personal trainer. I went to paramedic school at 21. I did 2 seasons of wildland firefighting, and I wanted to be a paramedic firefighter for a long time. And I'm 5'2", and I got back problems, and it just wasn't a good fit. I would pass all the interviews, and then I'd go throw the 250-pound ladders, and I could get the stuff done, but I felt like I was hurting myself, and I just feel like I was pulled away from that. I had to get an eye surgery to get through LA City's process, and then it just took too long to heal, and I got DQ'd out of a year process, and it was just like thing after thing. And I really think I am 30 now, and I know that I'm supposed to be teaching, I'm supposed to be helping women and girls heal and empower themselves, get strong mentally, physically, and be able to prevent like future trauma. And I don't know, I don't even have the answer because I just know I'm supposed to do it.
Where did it start? Where did this whole passion to help people, to be helpful, to be a servant, to change others' life? It's very clear. We've been talking for only 15 minutes, and it's pretty clear to me that you put others in front of yourself. Where is this sourcing? Like, have you ever sat down and like thought about this as like why other people are more important than me?
I don't know,
Am
honestly.
I getting too deep on this?
No, that's a really good question because I do definitely sometimes overserve. I feel like that's how my relationship was, like my marriage. I feel like I was the one always trying to fix and have solutions and da, 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 and I'm like giving a lot more energy, and I always want to help. If I see what's wrong with someone, addiction or whatever, and I feel like I know the answer, and I want nothing more than to like see people overcome. And I don't know. That's such a good question. Maybe because I'm like a codependent from having an addict parent. I'm going to classes, so I don't know. It's either a God thing. God has a serious purpose for me, and it's just, my life's trajectory, I guess, or it's some sort of thing.
It sounds like you're a survivor of it, and you've chosen to give back, right, from what you've learned. And I think that's a lot of survivors do that in one way or another. And you know, you've got a couple unique, interesting vehicles in order to do it with. Yeah.
What's crazy? So I work. It's been a while, but I was working with 2 ministries, All Things Possible, and then the School Games, which actually this GI they partnered with War Tribe to create a fundraiser for school games. They go around the country, and I believe it's to underprivileged cities where like their police department's kind of underfunded, and they do massive data collection weekends and create packets of so the police can go do stings on pimps that enslave like tons of women and girls, and I've got to go work with these girls that are post trafficking, sex trafficked, and the healing they get through jiu-jitsu is insane. It's like, it brings me chills, and I want to cry every time I work with these girls, because for us, we're used to getting choked. We're used to like showing up and laughing, and but for other people that have trauma, to come into a gym and just even touch another person is such a massive hurdle, and it takes a lot of courage for them to do that. And these girls that I've got to go work with, I've worked with probably 4 or 5 groups over the last 2 years, 3-day weekend events, and it's geared towards healing their trauma. So we do jiu-jitsu, knife training, firearm training, and then kind of like just the fellowship part, psychological training, spiritual training, stuff like that.
Mental health, yeah.
But, to watch them come in the gym and have panic attacks because I'm a girl, right? I'm mounting them and I'm supposed to be giving them pressure and making them work out of top mount, we call this reap choke, right? And to see them the weekend that, Sunday comes around, they're like a different human. And they are my inspiration, and they look at me like I'm some hero because I'm a black belt and I'm a world champ and I've done all this stuff. And I feel so small when I see these women come and give 100% in courage and heal through their trauma. It's like, I don't know, ever since I've seen that happen in the jiu-jitsu room, that's like all I ever want to try to keep harboring, that because it's working.
I mean, that has to feel very empowering to you as an instructor, as a coach, as a teacher. I mean, I only can imagine how difficult those situations are. Walking into a jiu-jitsu academy or MMA place or even a fitness place is extremely intimidating. Now, having past experiences which really shift you away from the physical contact, that puts just layers of hesitance and just insecurity and a really unhealthy balance. And you're talking about changing their lives, and so it happens you have a lot of success with it just a few days. This has to be empowering to you, how much impact you have on others.
Yeah, I guess it's like, I was just a young girl and I started training at 16, and I loved it, and it's such a somatic release, right, when you train. And then I just knew I wanted to be a black belt. I wanted to be a pro fighter. I want like to be married and have a healthy family and all these things you want when you're growing up. And ever since I got my black belt, it's like all of a sudden you get a lot more respect. And I never really thought teaching as a woman, I was a little bit worried. Men, like I couldn't have a big academy and be a female coach. That's what my fear was. When I was 16, I remember seeing Dana White on the TV saying women will never be in the UFC.
I remember that.
And then I was like, oh, fuck. So that's when I went to college. Like, I was going to fight. I fought a boy when I was 16 at a roller dome in a sanctioned pancrase event. And I'm like, I want to fucking fight. And there was no market for it. And luckily, like, Ronda Wright paved the way, and like Gina Carano and stuff. But I remember seeing that and like my heart breaking. And I'd watched the UFC with my dad. It started in '93. That's the year I was born. And I watched every UFC with my dad, watching Hoist fight in the gi and shit, right? So I was very like inspired and passionate young. And then I felt like there wasn't a future. And my parents are always instilling like, you need a good career, you need a business, you need this. So I was very just like in fear of not being successful. And I think that pushed me away from actually doing what I wish I did a lot more focus on fighting, jiu-jitsu, and like became like Mackenzie Dern, right? Like that's to me like the pinnacle of success. Jiu-jitsu ADCC champ in the UFC, has, now she's making a lot of money and can survive as a child, a family. So I kind of wish could go back in time.
You said that there's like a point of regret. I'm hearing that you wish that you've done more you've done different. What would you do differently, specifically? Like what decisions would you gone different way?
I probably would have not gone to college and became EMT, paramedic, wasted all this time kind of pursuing a career where I thought I was doing that to help people, and I was doing that because kind of like people around me and my parents were telling me it's a good idea. And then I went and did it, and it was severe stress. I saw dead people every day. I saw a teenage kid shot through the head, little kids hit by cars. Like, it was fucked up. And you don't sleep. I'd be like force hired 48-hour shifts and sleep like 3 hours in 2 days, and then have to drive home from LA and be like falling asleep at the wheel. And this was for nearly minimum wage, right? And when I'm in that, I'm thinking like, okay, well, I'll get on the fire department and I'll make a good living, and I'll have a house and a boat and a truck and like all that type of like shit I thought I wanted. um, and yeah, so I feel like I wasted a lot of time pursuing like this career that I ended up not even liking. And all my patients are people basically most of the time that I can't help. I'm just taking them from A to B, and most of them are already heart failure, kidney failure, liver failure, so dang sick that they're gonna die. Like they're not gonna get better, and they live in like suffering every day. And I realized like this isn't really the helping I thought it was. So I spent a lot of years. I was a paramedic for like 5 years, and then
Yeah,
so
Gary is nodding his head because you were paramedic, right, Gary?
I was a first responder in the housing projects in the city. So I did it for 4 years,
yeah.
and when my license came up for renewal, I was like, nah, I'm not doing this for the rest of my
I
life.
let my paramedic
and
license lapse.
Yeah, I let it lapse. Yeah, and I did it for the wrong reasons too. My girlfriend wanted to get married, and at the time I didn't have a job that she thought was going to last. So it was like, okay, I'll go to school and then do that, because every firefighter I knew and every paramedic I knew had that house, had that lake house, or something along those lines, which is what she grew up accustomed to. And then 4 years later, it was like, nah, fuck this. I'm not, well, she caught wind of that a couple years earlier, but but yeah, it's one of those careers where, man, if it's just it's ugly, and if you don't want to, if your heart's not in it, you just can't do it.
Sorry,
At which point? Yeah, no, you're fine. Better plug it in than go offline.
And it's like your Mac's about to sleep. I'm like, oh my
god. Well, that's not an easy life, I think what makes it harder even is the fact that you're chasing something you don't want. You're fine. Make yourself comfortable so you're fine.
Yeah, well, I swear I like got an autoimmune illness. I started getting full body hives at work, and I just like
work?
looked on the ambulance.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I was a 911 EMT in South LA, running with like LA County, and we'd be up they called my truck like I forgot what they called it, but basically where it was never resting. It was like a central to all the other stations. So if one was out, we had to move up. So it was like we never rested. But I got like an autoimmune. I started getting full body hives, anxiety attacks, and at that time as well, my boyfriend before my husband died in a car accident on the way home from California wrestling state. And he got like, we don't even know what happened still, but he crashed and then got out of the car, and I guess a truck hit him, and he flew like 50 feet off the side of the 5, and then they didn't find him for like 12 hours or something. But so I had that trauma happen on top of the crazy schedule I had, and the whole time I'm like a purple belt at this point, and I'm training as much as I can. I made the Team USA grappling, and I was like going to Kazakhstan or Azerbaijan and Kazakhstan to fight at UWW Worlds. So I was always like, and I did ADCC trials and made it to the semis against Jenna Bishop. And I had good runs, even though I was like working full time, had a lot of trauma, had some medical stuff going on. So that's why I always think back as like, I wish I gave all my energy to martial arts, because I feel like I would have been like a Mackenzie Dern and been at ADCC. And then now I'm like kind of giving my dream more of 100%, whereas I'm just working around my training schedule right now. And now I can't even book fights because I got my black belt, and I haven't been able to book. I've had 10 MMA fights canceled since I moved to San Diego, which has been about 2.5 years. I've had 2 fights happen, so it's just At
which point your life makes a turn? At which point this continuous, bad luck, all these continuous negative things stop and you pivot into this more positive outlook that you have today? Was there one specific event that caused this, or is this just you healing over the period of time?
I don't know. I think I'm one of those type of people that I show up for everyone else, like no matter what. I could be crying in the car. I mean, this happens even now. Like, yeah, I was in an abusive relationship as well, and so I have trauma from that still. And I could have random like panic attack or like something anxiety while I'm driving, and then I'll be in the car crying, and I need to get my shit together and get in and teach kids class and teach women's class and adult. And so I don't know. I think I'm good at putting on my best for the world and people that need me or whatever and lead. But I'd say like on my own, in my own head, I do definitely like deal with a lot of I'm over a lot of things, but I still have things that I'm working through. And I think 30 was particularly hard for me because I feel like I'm not where I wanted to be. I didn't expect to be like divorced and moved with trauma from it, and then moved 7 hours away, all my friends and family, starting my career over. COVID happened, and like Gary, I let my license lapse because I didn't want to work during COVID when we didn't know what the fuck it was, right?
Mm-hmm.
I worked during Ebola, and they would put you in a rig with somebody and give you like a kind of like a foam gown, like that's gonna you're not gonna get Ebola, right? In LA, and then all it is like they're just like training you to do Medi-Cal fraud essentially on your paperwork, so they get paid the most. And but you don't know all this shit when you're in it, you know. You're just like, yes sir, yes sir. You got to be in the truck driving in like a minute from a dead sleep, and be at the call in like less than 8 minutes. Like there's just things that are impossible. And I don't know. I don't even know what the question was. I'm going on a rant now.
No, you're fine. It's fascinating to listen to you.
You said you're still working through it, I think, which was the answer to the question
Yes,
of
okay,
when did you change your outlook, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so my career starting over, that all these things have been fucking hard because I feel like I've always been a go hard, work hard, and then shit result. You know, and you're like, fuck.
Well,
but that's life. It really is just life, and you
I gotta ask you this. I gotta ask you this. I mean, any other person, I feel like they would just say, "Fuck this." I mean, this is a lot to go through, and every time a new story that you tell us, every time a new milestone in your life, you are like, I gotta go back to work. I gotta go back. I gotta fix this. I gotta do this. What gives you this drive to overcome? Where's this grit come from? And here's what I'm asking this. Many people quit jiu-jitsu. I mean, thousands every single day. They start, they never make it. They give up. Like no,
and then don't show up.
Absolutely. I mean, there's millions of them around the world. I mean, quitting every single freaking day, right? But it seems like your life is by far harder than what jiu-jitsu might be, and yet you haven't quit. What gives you this resilience? What gives you this push? How do you process this in your mind that quitting is not an option?
That's such a good question. I love these questions because, like, I really don't know at the top of my head. Like, I had a really tough dad, I think. Not like abusive or anything, but like he is the hardest working motherfucker I've ever and still know to this day. He will do anything to get food on the table, and I think that's like my dad's like my superhero, you know, and I feel like I embodied that. And I was the first. I have a younger brother, but I was like outside, like hammering shit with my dad when I was like in diapers, you know. Like I literally be just like trying to copy my dad and like hammer some shit like the nail into wood or something. And so I think I embodied after my dad, and maybe my faith, you know. I believe in like spiritual battles, like we're in a spiritual battlefield where there's positive and negative forces, I guess, and I feel like there's something that wants to take you off your purpose, whether it's demonic, satanic, whatever you believe. But I feel like those forces are at play in the world and in our life every day, and we don't really pay attention. So I feel like I'm being tested all the time, and I can't let the negative shit win, because then the negative shit wins, whether it's Satan, whether it's, I don't know what it is, right? But I think I have to like glorify God and let God win over any bad thing. Otherwise, what the fuck am I doing on earth? Like, we have one little life, and what are you going to do with it? You're going to quit? That's just not even an option for me. And what's funny is you say that because I've won a lot of tournaments where like I was losing and there was like 10 seconds left, and my brain just goes like, it does that click, and I'm like, you're not fucking losing. Or you're like, or I'd rather fucking die than quit, or that's kind of like a weird thing I've always had. And,
what was the most memorable moments like that? You're in a tournament and you're down, and it just clicks.
So this is funny because it just happened in June. And last summer, I almost broke my neck. I got stacked, and 5 of my vertebrae popped, and I had to get a CT, and my nerves swelled up. And I've been having issues the last year, so I've only competed like 2 or 3 times. And this was for the Team USA trials in June, and I cut to 116, and I had a tough. All the girls are fucking tough at black belt, you know what I mean? And I had Dorothy Dow, who just won adult, I think, gi worlds at the weight class just this year. And I'm thinking like, fuck, I didn't even put the gi on once this year to train. I'll just do gi anyway since I'm there, and why not? I'm paying to compete. I'll do both styles, right? It's more matches. So I won no gi, tough matches. I had Natalie Selcado, something like that. She's like undefeated right now, MMA pro, black belt. And then my gi match, I had like one match, and then I had gi, and I had Dorothy, and she's fucking sick in the gi. She's like an AOJ black belt. I think she's like a full-time type of trainer, girl that trains. And and I'm a wrestler, so I want to go standing. Long story short, I was down in point, and there was like 15 seconds left or something. And I looked, and I'm like, I'm getting the fuck up. I was on the bottom, and I'm like scrambling, and then she's putting pressure on me, and I had an overhook, and I just pinched that overhook, and I stood up, and then I Uchi monitored her back and mounted for 6 points in like less than 10 fucking seconds. But it was just like that dog. Like, I was so exhausted because I just had my no-gi final too, and I was so unrecovered. And everyone's like, oh, you're not going to do the gi, right? Because they're thinking like, I'm already going to Kazakhstan. I already won the no-gi spot. Like, I don't need to do the gi. Like, clearly you're fucked up. I was all like my grips and stuff. And and I'm like, no, just give me a second. And I'm like, fuck. I'm like trying to put my gi on. And then she even made a comment about, I don't think she meant to do this, but I'm a 10th Planet black belt also, right? I got my gi black belt like 3 years before. And then Boogie gave my black belt in 10th Planet last August. And my little name thing says 10th Planet, and my gi was mismatched. I forgot to pack my gi like a dingus. I just had a top and a bottom mismatched in my car when I got to the tournament the next day. And I'm like, whatever. I didn't even think maybe I'd win gi, right? And my gi's mismatched. And she's like, oh, so you go to the table, and they have a green and a red ankle bracelet, right? And she's like, I don't think we need that. Like, clearly they know who you are. It says 10th. She's like, it says 10th Planet, and look at your gi, is what she said to me. And I'm like, at that point, I'm like, fuck that. Planet or not, I'm gonna fucking go as hard as I can. But so that was freaking funny. And then in Poland, or I'm sorry, not Poland, in Spain, I was fighting a girl from Poland that beat me in no-gi on like a points, like a weird point stipulation thing that I thought was like falsely awarded, and it cut me from going to the finals. And if you're not going to medal over there, you go all the way across this fucking ocean to get DQ'd in a first or second round. It sucks, you know. So I was all bitter, and then the next day in the gi, I'm like, fuck that, I'm not losing. And then I smashed her somehow wrestling in the gi. And again, I don't train gi anymore. I literally don't, but I'll put it on to get matches and like tournaments. So yeah, and it's just like it's
It seems like it seems like you put a gi on when the point needs to be proven. I'm just saying. Like,
it's funny because and then I'm out here and like everyone thinks I'm just like a 10th planet person, and like actually I train in the gi every day for like 8 fucking years, you know, in a Machado affiliate, and it was it took me 12 years to get my gi black belt. And now I feel like things are different. I see people get black belts in like 5 years, and it's like, it's just different. It's not old school as much. All I know is the old school way, you know?
Believe me, it's very different now than when I was starting, at least. And you describing a lot of it. So it's, the jiu-jitsu is changing. It's changing in front of our eyes, you know? Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see what
I started at 16. It's changed that much in just that short time, I feel like.
Yeah. It's all changing slowly, but it surely does. I don't know, good, bad, hate it, love it, I don't know, but it's definitely happening. So, you know, we all got to buckle up in some sense.
Yeah.
You're describing a lot of those struggles and a lot of overcoming these difficulties. You know, how do you relay some of these experiences to the students and the women that you're trying to help? How do you use that as a vehicle to make them stronger, to impact them?
I think overall, I try to first and foremost. Actually, I notice like when I have like a girls, when I say girls, I mean like under 18, right? So I teach girls right now that are like 12 to 18, and then I go, okay, here, you're gonna go with me, and they're always like, huh? They're like scared, and I'm like thinking, I can't even. I hate that, you know. I hate that, and because they're afraid they're going to get hurt. And there's a lot of people that do train and hurt people out of ego, right? And I feel like I've been taught, I've had shitty bosses, I've had fucking abusive relationship, like things like where the leader is not a healthy leader, and they're whatever they're doing is they're like in a power trip. I had a lot of teachers like in high school where like they treat you like shit because they're like in some weird power trip as a teacher. And you think they make you feel like something's wrong with you, like you're stupid or whatever. And I hate that. I hate fucking bullies. And I feel like I have this black belt and I have these girls and I have an opportunity to build them up. Or some people, they do need to get broken down a little bit. They think they know everything. They're egotistical, not listening. And sometimes those people need the whoop ass, you know what I mean? Old school mentality. But so when I have these girls, it's like I don't want them to be scared of me. I want them to be feel safe. I want them to be laughing and having fun in class and happy to be there and learn and be excited and a nerd kind of. I love when people are like super nerdy about jits and they want to like, look at, I have my notebook right here. I have it with me everywhere. I still take notes when I go to training, you know, super nerd. I love when someone's obsessed with what they do. Yeah. I don't even know why I have it.
Yeah, you got a nerd here too. Yeah.
Well, I'm doing this for stand-up now because clearly I'm not as good at stand-up as I am jiu-jitsu. So, but yeah, I want them to feel like they're safe, they're having fun, they have a friend, and I'm not just some like dictator black belt, like do this, smashing them, because that is very common too. And I think more than anything, I want to be a mentor, a role model, and a friend. And then
so what's the first thing that you do? Like you meet these women for the very first time. They've never done jiu-jitsu. There's a lot of bad past, right? Has a lot of walls built up. Like, what's the first thing? I mean, how do you break the ice? How do you show them that you are a friend, that you are on their side?
Um, I think I'm like overly nice. I'm like, hey, oh, what's your name? I look them in the eye. I'll shake their hand. Um, I'll ask them about themselves, and then like say, okay, so I do warm ups every class, like most, right? I do shrimps, forward shrimps, forward back roll. I do like an inversion side roll, wrestling shots, hip walks, cartwheels, blah blah blah, all kinds of stuff. Break fall technical stand up for women in particular. I very emphasize that. Most people do it wrong, right? So I go lay next to them. I have the regular girls that are good on their lines, and then I'll have them near the end to watch, and then I'm right there next to them in the trenches or whatever. And okay, we're gonna shrimp to our elbow, to our hand, boom, and I'll just be there with them until they get one down, and make them feel like I don't want them to feel like they're a spectacle, embarrassed. I want them to be like, we're all humble and learning and teaching each other. So there's that. I'll try to make sure I get them like on social media, or hey, if you ever have questions, you can have my phone number. And I just try to make them feel like they're safe and I'm their friend. And I do. I'm open to helping all women and girls. And I think the fellowship is the part that I'm trying to harbor the most. Is you're coming here to train, but you also have people that you can rely on and be safe with. And when shit's crazy, you can call me. That's kind of where I try to get them feeling comfortable. I don't know if I do a good job. I hope so. But...
Yeah. Well, I mean, clearly you do. Since they keep coming back, you continue doing it. I mean, if you were not doing it, you wouldn't be where you are. So like that just brings some point of success, right? Do you recall one particular story that sticks in your mind that the impact that you've made or the change that was made in somebody else by what you do and how you do all of this?
Well, yeah, when I worked with those, they were called Samantha weekends, with this ministry. It's called All Things Possible. And Samantha was actually a girl they saved in Vegas, and she would recruit girls to come to these weekends and do the training, stay the night, all that stuff. And there has been so many now, I don't think I can remember all their names, but I had a girl named, I don't even know if I should say her name on podcast, but she's like 18, and I don't even know. This what's also wild is I don't know these girls' stories until the end of the week when they share. And we do like an open forum, and basically a lot of these girls were raped, trafficked. There was ones that were in cults, like in Utah, like growing up in a cult family where the man has crazy. Like tons of wives, and there's all kinds of like evil shit that goes on that people have no idea about in those communities. And oh man, I'm probably getting off topic again, but there was a girl that, and her story's public now, but she was in a house in LA for 90 days and never saw sunlight because she was trafficked every fucking day, morning to night, in LA. And that's now insane. She's a mom. She has a husband. She has kids. She trains now. After the weekend, they went and signed up at a place out in LA, and you would never fucking guess. With most of these girls, I feel like me, like on the outside, I'm a black belt, I'm this, I'm a teacher, I'm like successful or put together, healthy, whatever. But these girls went through fucking unbelievable shit that makes what I do and have done feel like nothing. And or like a pea, what's that story where the pea's under the mattress? Like I feel like that sometimes. And to watch these girls cry on the mat, and then they got to sit out and have a panic attack essentially, and then they come back and they'll come up to me and they're like, okay, Bre, I want to go live with you. Can you like they want me to like put them back on their back, and then we do the choke again, right? And that's like it gives me chills of the courage that these girls and maybe the circumstance they went through actually instilled instilled that in them, right? Like they've been through the craziest shit, so they can do this, you know? They can work through getting choked, they can work through getting sweaty and claustrophobic and all that. But I don't think there's one story I actually remember in particular, because there's been so many girls that I'm just like in awe of.
Well, there's no doubt that the impact that you're making is tremendous. I mean, it's just even sitting back and listening to you is quite remarkable to the impact that you've done. Have you ever reflected on, like, in a big picture, how many lives you have changed, how many lives you have impacted?
No, I just think
Why
about
not?
how I want to do more. I don't know. I want to do more. I want to I feel like I want to have a nonprofit, and I want to sponsor girls, and I mean, there's a huge network of fucking darkness out there that people don't talk about enough. I'm in Sacramento right now. There's a blade on Stockton Boulevard. It's not that far from here. There's blades in every city, every big city, especially. Every day, girls are being sold for sex, and they're not in control of them. I mean, they're in control of themselves, but they have a pimp who's psychologically manipulating them. They're hooked on drugs. These pimps have children with these girls, and they make them completely self-reliant. And it's insane. Like, nobody talks about this. People don't know this. There's 13, 14-year-old girls right now being sex trafficked down the street. And it's Chicago. I'm sure it's super rampant.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
I mean, I think that one of the most mind-blowing things about this topic is the fact that all of this is happening and nobody sees it. It's happening in front of everybody. Nobody sees this. Nobody. About
everybody's wrapped up in their own bullshit and drama, and I hate it. You know, I'm like, I think.
So
about
how do you make a dent?
Out there.
How do you make a dent? How do you make a change? What's
Girl, that's where I'm at. Is I'm like, I want to go fucking drive down there and be like, hey, come to my class. Like, but I can't do that, you know? Like,
yeah.
Hey, you're talking about pimps, so probably try to, like, I mean, they'll shoot you. There's, like, you never know what's going on out there in that world, right? And I've talked to some. I actually got a youth program here for a camp, like an 8-week camp through the Sac Sheriff. And it was the same type of thing. Like, I was posting some anti-trafficking stuff on Instagram, and this officer just, like, follows me, and it ended up becoming a partnership with Sac Sheriff. So it's their explorers partnered with some troubled youth, and I have girls and boys in there. So that's a start. And then I work with school games that do those stings. So I want to set up a SAC school games. A Chicago school games would be huge. But I don't really know, and I pray on it, and I talk about it, and what's been pretty insane, somehow, I swear I'm just blabbing about this stuff, like, I talk about it like it's talking about the weather, you know, like, yeah, there's 14-year-old girls right over there being sex trafficked, you know?
But you know what, I'll tell you, nobody talks about it, and I think being candid and honest and just open about topics like this, that's a step one of all of this.
Yeah.
You know, if we all beat around the bush and not really say what it is and how it is, then how any of this is going to change? If you want to change something, you gotta talk about it, right? And I think that's the remarkable part about your story, that you don't bullshit around. You don't sugarcoat any of this. It is what it is. I don't know what to do, but I'm here to help. I'm trying. Yeah.
I feel like I'm like a little, I don't know how to explain this, man. I feel like God is like, you're supposed to go out there and be like a little spec ops warrior, like, get out there and fucking start doing something. And yeah, I'm just blabbing about it, doing what I can with the people, like, and I'm thinking about the long-term impact of, okay, I get a 13-year-old girl in my class, and I make her a fucking killer, and I make her confident, and I make her, she has friends, she's not getting bullied, she's going to help other girls, and that's like an impact we'll never see, because hopefully it'll prevent trauma, it'll prevent someone from getting in an abusive relationship, from getting bullied, from acquiring trauma, which affects like, everyone's affected by their trauma for their whole life. People kill themselves after being raped, after being abused. And if we can like prevent the abuse, because you make someone so strong physically, spiritually, mentally, surrounded by community, like that's where I feel like I'm trying to make an impact, or can really make an impact every day. But yeah,
there's always a layer beyond that, right? I mean, these girls will become at some point very skilled and likely black belts, and they will teach others. And
yeah,
more of
exactly.
those girls you teach, more of others they will teach, right? Just
Yeah,
like you were
domino
inspired by
effect.
Hoist Gracie with your dad, or many others. They are inspired by you, and so on, right? So this is essentially paying forward, in a sense, building this network
Yeah,
of good humans, right?
yeah, domino effect for sure. Like
Yeah.
a tree, I'm putting the roots out for it to grow. But yeah, I mean, every day, dude, I think about how there's like souls out there that are just, they're enslaved. They're essentially enslaved. There's more humans enslaved today than ever in history by number. And we act like slavery's in the past, and people are trafficked fucking every day. So I don't know. I don't know how, but partnering with like the school games with the Gi, that's something. They're actually busting motherfuckers. They're like helping the departments go do stings by giving them, because the departments don't have a whole lot of resources, and they might have a couple of data analysts, right, for a small department. So they'll go there on a weekend for 2 days, morning to night, in a competitive. They do it like a competition, and then boom, the department goes in. One pimp generally has many girls, right? So if you get the pimp, like it breaks down the network. So they're doing huge stuff, and I'm kind of like boots on the ground and trying to get to the girl. And I am oddly, I run more and more into girls that were sex trafficked, like by being very open about this, right? Talking about it, and then I have girls that are like, they take a deep breath and they're like, I was sex trafficked, and they tell me just like that, and they feel open to me. I feel like to tell me their story, and that's so fucking vulnerable and crazy. Like, if I was sex trafficked, I don't feel like I ever want anyone to know, right? Because you feel, I can't even imagine. So if they could talk about it, that's so much courage. And but those girls can make a bigger impact, I even think, than me, because they've been there. They know how to understand mentally what these girls are going through. And I'd like to build an army of sex trafficking survivor chicks and use them to go and reach these girls. And I don't know. Again, I don't know how that's going to happen, but that's kind of my vision right now.
Well, good for you. Good for you. I think you're doing remarkable things and amazing things, and we are just. This is just a beginning. This is just a dent in a huge
Yeah.
change that will happen, and we'll see some of those results down the road. Listen,
Right.
Bre, we've been at this for nearly an hour. Before we start
Yeah,
wrapping this up,
I know.
what we have for you is a question from our previous guest. And he didn't know that you will be answering. So think about it, literally a question and completely in blind. Gary's going to take a lead on this.
Yeah, with your connection through legacy, you might actually know Arin Ardjamian. Sorry, I butchered it. But Arin's a legacy. Well, he was an instructor there. He's a great guy. We touched on this a little, but he wants to know, if you could go back and change one thing in your career, what would it be? We talked about that EMT thing, but maybe in your jiu-jitsu career. We'll make it a little more specific.
Oh, yeah. Honestly, I would have left. I would have left the small town gym I was at earlier. Um, I actually didn't even talk about this, but my lineage comes from Kenny Bond. He's a Renato Magno black belt. That's who I have my gi black belt under. But Kenny got diagnosed with glioblastoma, brain cancer, when he was like 45. And I started under him when I was like 16. And he he held me. I was just telling the students this. I don't even know what we were talking about, but I painted the gym in there. I taught the kids. I cleaned. I couldn't afford jiu-jitsu, and I was in college. And my parents they were going through 2008 bankruptcy and stuff, and my family was struggling around when I started jiu-jitsu. So he was gracious enough to let me do other things to train, and I was like a blue belt for 4 years at fighting at all the worlds and everything, Pan Ams, and then purple belt, 3.5. And I feel like he kept me the old school way. But when he died, I stayed because I cared about the success of the gym and his family. And from then on, I feel like I stunted myself in jiu-jitsu. I became like, I was like a 3.5 year purple belt, 3-year purple belt. And I was teaching, and I was just going, I didn't really have partners for me there. At that point, I was the only girl, and I stayed way too long, kind of caring about other people and myself. And as soon as I left, and I ended up going to San Diego military, right? And I trained under Boogie. I didn't have a coach coaching me for like 4 years or something, like a long time. And I was doing all the big things, ADCC trials, no coach, worlds, no coach, whatever. And, but I went to 10th Planet. Boogie, like, really, he was at every tournament. He'd be FaceTiming me if he couldn't the day before. How do you feel? He was super involved. And being in a gym that's a competitive gym where people like really care about getting better and competing and fight even, they got your back. So I wish I left a lot sooner and joined, like, back then, if I was super about the gi, and I would have went to Autos. In that age, I was like, man, I'd love to go to Autos and train full time and blah blah blah, win worlds and all that stuff. So yeah, that's one thing I definitely held on to, kind of not caring about my own success. And then, yeah, really focusing on my career, and even being married in the military. I got married young, like 25, and that held me back in a way because I was doing everything for the military first. And so maybe be more selfish. I don't know.
Well, it sounds like you're doing good things right now, right? Like some of these things that happened in the past, they are in the past. They build us who we are, and we can't go back. We can't change any of this. The time has passed. You talked about that.
Even waste the thought. It's a waste of time.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't live forever.
So, the only good thing that we can do about it is tell the story. Let others hear what the struggles we've gone through, and let them, perhaps make different choices as example of what we haven't done. And I think that's what you're doing. And that's the amazing part about your story, that you're really making impact on a lot of people out there. And I feel like you're just starting. You're just beginning this whole thing. So it's so great.
I'm in a place right now where I have a 16-year-old girl that followed me to this gym. She was coming to all my women's classes. I teach at one time I was teaching at 2 10th Planets and then 2 regular other gyms every week. So I had like all these students, and then they were following me to my women's class, the women and the girls. So I have like a 12-year-old, 13-year-old, 16, and 14 that are like my little prodigy girls right now out here. And then back home, I kind of convinced some girls how serious they were. You want to be a world champ? You got to go. You should just go to these places that harbor trying to make world champs and have a coach that's there and active. And I got some girls out of situations where there was gym like runners, black belts that were flirting a lot with them, that were hooking up with girls that are like young, and just fucking, that shit happens a lot more than people talk about too. And I got girls out of situations like that, and I feel like they're doing really good in jiu-jitsu now because they got out, but they needed someone to look out for them. So that's also a little bit of my role.
Well, there's no doubt, Bre, that you're making an impact. I mean, it's quite amazing. Listen, we're gonna have to start wrapping this up.
Yeah, you gotta go to work.
I know you gotta go, but I also gotta go. There's 20 teenagers waiting for me in about 15 minutes. So
there you go.
Yeah. But listen, thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for being the most important part. I want to thank you for being open. Your story is quite amazing, and having the ability to really open up, be vulnerable, and share that story with others. Not many people do this, and I appreciate that. So thank you for doing that. And I'm looking forward to, I'm going to be sitting back and kind of watching what Bre is doing today or tomorrow, because I have a feeling like You're just scratching the surface. The good stuff is yet to come. Gary?
I'm just kind of blown away today, and I'm really impressed by your life of service. Take care of yourself, but as you know, I just wanted to say, as a father of an 11-year-old girl, I just thank you for everything you're doing, right? Because I know what it's like out there, and I know that there are good people out there too. So thank you. I appreciate it.
I hope this is what you guys probably didn't expect, all this heavy shit.
Hey, some of them are heavy, some of them are light, some of them are in between.
Listen, what did I say before we started? This is just talk about life.
Yeah.
We just talk about life. So it happens. We all do jiu-jitsu, but this is all about life. Life is jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to acknowledge that the lessons we learn on the mat, we convert out to the real world so other people can see them, hear them, feel them,
Yeah, I always just hope, whenever I have a little platform for a short time, it's like, I don't know whose ears this stuff's going to fall on. And if someone can hear something that gives them like a little hope or breaks like a cycle of their own, I know that's worked for me when I'm like, just, oh my God, I'm so depressed or anxious or whatever is going on, hopeless. I throw on a podcast about something. And I've heard people, I love hearing stories where people have like just fucked up lives and trauma. And the next thing you know, they're a millionaire CEO or they're in the UFC or whatever. Those are the best stories. And people are incredible. Like anything's possible, So I hope it falls on someone's ears that needs it. Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And we'll make sure to include all the links, your Instagram page in the show notes. So if anybody wants to contact you and reach out to you, feel free to do it. There you go. You go. Well, there you go. Bre JJ, that's right. Well, listen, let's wrap this up for today. But again, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your story. Remarkable life. And I'm looking forward to seeing what you're going to do next.
Thank you for listening to RŌL Radio. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to leave us a review and help us make the show even more amazing. For future episodes, check out our website and follow us on all major podcast platforms. Take care.